Good morning, evening, or night, wherever you are. Welcome to WHAM today. Take a deep breath, clear your mind, and let's drift through the whispers of today's world, one quiet thought at a time. As we wrap up Thursday, 10th July 2025, let's see what stories are unfolding around us. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov engaged in frank talks in Malaysia, addressing heightened tensions over Moscow's actions in Ukraine. Russia faced scrutiny as a Dutch court convicted a 43-year-old Russian man for violating international sanctions by sharing technology from ASML. An investigation revealed Fortress Russia has seized $50 billion in assets over 3 years. Adding to internal pressures, a dismissed Russian transport minister was found dead in his car with a gunshot wound. Moscow demanded access to a Russian basketball player detained in France. The mayor stated Russia claims BRICS is not anti-American and reported that Russian forces downed 3 Ukrainian drones targeting Moscow. A new book alleges Donald Trump told Putin he would bomb the S out of Moscow if Russia invaded Ukraine. Ukraine experienced another significant missile and drone attack on Kyiv launched by Russia, which caused at least 2 deaths. Kyiv retaliated by striking a Russian airbase after Moscow bombarded Ukraine with hundreds of drones. In the United States, the average rate on a 30-year mortgage increased to 6.72% this week. A tech stock rally boosted the S&P 500 to a record high of 6,263.26, elevating NVIDIA's market capitalization to $4 trillion. Chinese business owners in the U.S. are facing difficulties due to inconsistent trade policies, increased immigration enforcement, and decreased consumer spending. Trade relations shifted as President Donald Trump announced a 35% tariff on Canadian goods, effective August 1. The implementation of reciprocal tariffs, previously scheduled for July 9th, was delayed until August 1. On global health front, a UN AIDS agency report cautioned that a sudden cessation of U.S. funding would severely disrupt the global fight against AIDS and HIV. Amidst these economic shifts, experts are advising investments in gold and silver, despite a strong US dollar that may limit potential gains. China's foreign minister met with U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio in Malaysia amidst trade and security tensions. Cloud infrastructure spending in China surged 16% to $7.60 billion in May, fueled by AI adoption, with Alibaba's cloud unit leading at a 33% market share. SASAC Director Chang Yusuo visited AI firms DeepSeek and Unitary Robotics, exploring AI innovation. Starbucks China operations received offers valued up to $10 billion. The Shanghai Composite Index climbed 0.48%, driven by solar stock gains, following Beijing's pledge to address price wars. The Chinese economy is projected to have grown 5.2% in Q2, despite ongoing trade disputes. Automakers Chery and Bide may face subsidy repayments due to audit irregularities. Uniqlo's parent company missed earnings, estimates due to sluggish sales in China. Chinese stocks experienced gains as investors targeted policy-supported sectors amid stimulus prospects, while Hong Kong's 8 shares offer valuation and safety amidst US-China tension. Global X launched an ETF focused on China innovation leaders. Turning to the United States, President Trump cautioned Kazakhstan, a nation with critical minerals and increasing ties with China, to secure trade agreements or face tariffs. The Pentagon is poised to become the largest shareholder in rare earth miner MP Materials, as the Trump administration explores equity investments to compete with China's dominance. Across the Atlantic, the European Union is facing mounting pressure to counter China's control over rare earth supply chains. These tensions arise before the EU-China summit and are heightened by Trump's tariff impositions. United States. The United States saw Donald Trump discussing the possibility of imposing widespread tariffs, brushing aside worries about consequential inflationary pressure. He also spoke of dispatching Patriot missile systems to NATO allies, intended for Ukraine's defense, while also advocating for his recently enacted legislative bill. Furthermore, Trump allegedly communicated to Russian President Vladimir Putin a warning that the United States would bomb Moscow should Russia initiate an attack on Ukraine. Ukraine. Shifting to Ukraine, its drone manufacturers are potentially on the verge of receiving authorization to export their drone technologies to European nations. This development occurs as Kyiv continues to grapple with relentless drone attacks amidst its continuing conflict with Russia. India's stock markets faced headwinds, pressured by tariff disagreements and weaker than expected its sector results. The Sensex dropped 563 points, while the Nifty 50 declined by 0.74%. Gift Nifty traded near 25,277, suggesting a possible negative start for Indian indices, as it represented a discount of about 144 points from the prior Nifty futures close. Analysts like Raja Venkatraman from TradeBrains Portal and MarketSmith presented their top stock picks for July 11, highlighting opportunities in companies like Cartrade and Glenmark Pharma. Simultaneously, India is widening global funds access to its substantial $639 billion credit market. Ayush Wellness witnessed a share price increase after introducing brain fuel capsules, aiming to capitalize on the growing $18 Indian nutraceutical market. Australia's stock market saw a dip as banks and gold stocks underperformed, while Johns Lyng Group's shares jumped after a $730 buyout agreement. Australia is also advancing in digital finance, launching Project Acacia with the Reserve Bank of Australia to test stablecoins and CBDCs in wholesale markets. A Perth royalties trading firm is participating in the RBA's digital asset trials. Turning to Canada, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced new measures to support Ukraine amidst ongoing tensions with Russia. Canada will provide additional financial aid and military equipment to bolster Ukraine's defense capabilities. The Canadian government also reiterated its condemnation of Russia's actions and affirmed its commitment to upholding international law and the sovereignty of Ukraine. Meanwhile, in France, President Emmanuel Macron is facing renewed scrutiny over proposed pension reforms. Mass protests and strikes have erupted across the country as citizens voice their opposition to raising the retirement age. The French government maintains that the reforms are necessary to ensure the long-term sustainability of the pension system, but unions and opposition parties argue that they will disproportionately affect lower-income workers. Focusing on the United States, the Federal Reserve is closely monitoring inflation data as it considers further interest rate hikes. Recent economic indicators have shown mixed signals, with some sectors experiencing robust growth, while others are showing signs of slowing down. The Fed's decisions will have significant implications for the U.S. economy and global financial markets. Furthermore, the U.S. Congress is engaged in heated debates over infrastructure spending, with bipartisan efforts underway to address critical needs in transportation, energy, and communications. Japan's markets faced volatility due to looming tariff uncertainties, leading to a market downturn. A Reuters poll suggested a likely slowdown in Japan's core inflation for June, exacerbated by these tariff threats. Despite these economic headwinds, Japan reaffirmed its dedication to a free, fair, and open global economy. The U.S. imposition of 25% tariffs on Japan and South Korea contributed to a decline in Bitcoin value, signaling trader anxiety about potential global economic repercussions. Intriguingly, a succession crisis within Japan's imperial family resulted in a dramatic 6,000% increase in an elevator company's stock price, highlighting the economic sensitivities surrounding dynastic events. Meanwhile, the Royal Bank of Canada disclosed the issuance of a Japanese yen NVCC subordinated debenture. Through it all, Japan's trade policy is actively managing both equity and bond prospects while grappling with the complexities introduced by tariffs. Asian shares largely mirrored a tech-fueled Wall Street rally, though U.S. markets presented a mixed picture. Bitcoin surged to a new high, hitting $116,1781.10 amid rising institutional investments. The prevailing optimism around trade agreements bolstered Asian stocks, and currencies in the region generally strengthened, with the Malaysian ringgit holding steady. Across Asia, some travelers are rethinking plans to visit the United States, expressing apprehension about tariffs, rigorous border checks, and overall safety. The United States, under President Donald Trump, will impose a 35% tariff on Canadian imports starting August 3rd. This action is based on claims that Canada contributes to fentanyl trafficking into the U.S. and in response to retaliatory tariffs previously enacted by Canada. This announcement immediately led to a drop in stock futures. Meanwhile, in Asia-Pacific markets, performance was mixed amidst the news of the impending tariffs. Brazil faced potential tariffs from the United States during President Trump's administration. Trump threatened a 50% tariff. This threat stemmed from Brazil's handling of former President Jair Bolsonaro. Brazil prepared to respond with reciprocal tariffs. Critics voiced concerns that Trump's actions could damage his administration's trade policy credibility. Saudi Arabia is advancing its economic reforms, with the Capital Market Authority, CMA, approving amendments to investment fund regulations. These changes aim to attract investment and protect investors. Businesses must file excise tax returns by July 15 to avoid penalties. Oil exports to China from Saudi Arabia are expected to hit a 2-year peak in August. European markets initially braced for impact as trade tensions simmered. An anticipated tariff letter from the White House loomed over EU-US relations, threatening to disrupt established trade dynamics. However, European stocks displayed resilience, shaking off the tariff concerns to focus on ongoing trade talks. Investors keenly assessed the potential for European earnings to weather tariff-related storms. Mining and healthcare sectors offered notable support to European shares during this period of uncertainty. Meanwhile, as copper prices unexpectedly surged, adding another layer of complexity to the global economic landscape. Germany's real estate market is facing a test of its stability with an insolvency sale of a Frankfurt office tower. However, Bayer has stated that it will not be implementing any further plant closures within Germany following its exit from Frankfurt. In the business sector, KT&G is launching its S global brand in Germany, marking a significant entry into the European market. The United States is grappling with the potential disruption caused by President Trump's threat of copper tariffs, which could impede his goal of revitalizing American manufacturing. The U.S. relies on imports for roughly 40% of its copper supply, with a large portion coming from Chile. Shenzhen's innovative spirit is inspiring Pakistani students. In commerce, Baker Steel has commenced exports with its initial shipment of copper ingots to Hong Kong. Furthermore, Pakistan and Russia are collaborating to launch a freight train service in August, enhancing trade and transportation infrastructure. France is pushing for the most stringent sanctions against Russia in 3 years, according to its foreign minister. In a strategic move, France is partnering with the United Kingdom to invest 1.5 billion euros in Eutelsat, a direct competitor to Starlink. The United Kingdom is contributing to the €1.5 billion investment alongside France for Eutelsat, aiming to bolster competition against Starlink. The UK's participation will be via the capital increase announced by Eutelsat on June 19, 2025. Malaysia's industrial output in May fell short of expectations, contributing to growing concerns about a potential economic slowdown. The country's chip firms are also pausing their investment plans due to tariff anxieties. The South African rand is currently stable, supported by positive performance in the manufacturing sector. South Africa's major cities are slated to receive $17 billion in petrol tax revenue. In Yemen, Houthi rebels attacked and sunk the cargo ship Eternity Sea in the Red Sea. 6 of the 25 crew members aboard were rescued. Tesla is maintaining strong sales in Norway, a market that remains favorable for electric vehicles, despite sales declines in other European regions. Businesses throughout Mexico are struggling with debilitating extortion, forcing many to close after years of persistent threats. Century Entertainment is entering into a joint venture with a firm based in the Philippines to expand its gaming operations within the Asia-Pacific region. Italy has advocated for a ban on companies with ties to Russia from participating in reconstruction efforts in Ukraine, reinforcing its support. Latvia has announced that Ukraine will receive new Patriot missile batteries. Indonesia has identified 9 suspects in a $17 billion corruption case involving Pertamina, the state-owned oil and gas company. And that's a wrap for today's news, because even headlines need a nap. Stay curious, stay kind, and let the noise fade as you find your quiet. Take care, stay awesome, and I'll see you next time on WHAM Today.